Your Excellency, Mr. President, Deputy President, Cabinet, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to bore you with repeating what's already been said and what you already know, except to say that it's a great honor for me to have been associated with my colleague of many years, Professor Peter Anyang-Nyong'o, in the preparation of the document which was requested by His Excellency the President to provide us with a roadmap towards developing a development plan on a long-term basis that will guide our country after the expiration of the initiative that we undertook, kind of Kenya Vision 2030. I have been tasked this morning, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, simply to look at the global context that we considered ourselves to be in where we start as we move forward. It is not anything new to any of you to remark that the global framework of multilateralism, the architecture by which states play with one another that was established after 1946 and Second World War, is breaking down. And it is breaking down in a way that we observe from day to day. I was talking to the PS, Foreign Affairs, who was sitting next to me, that yesterday Britain got the seventh Prime Minister in 10 years. They have never seen an instability of that kind before. And they don't know how to get rid of it because the parties that were important after the war are also breaking apart. In our particular case, the UN, even the Bretton Woods institutions, the architecture of trade that was established at the WTO, all these are being brought into question. There are new players which have come into play. The Emirates, the powers in the Gulf, medium powers like Israel, and as well as Turkey, Egypt, etc. All these are major players in both development and also politics of the region. And we cannot move ahead without considering the important role of China, who is today the leading provider of development assistance, the bilateral donor in the world, with terms very different from those which we have played with before, as well as new players, again in the Gulf, but also in Europe and other parts of the world. And not to forget the BRICS. That is the global framework under which this plan that we are proposing is going to be developed. Your Excellency, Mr. President, you've heard this before from us, that in fact, looking at the statistics of the fastest developing countries in the world, it is possible to fulfill the mission of bringing Kenya forward from where we are into an industrialized modern country within one generation. It has been done before and it can be done. The Industrial Revolution, Mr. President, took 70, 80 years in the United Kingdom, the first country to industrialize. That period has been being compressed over as we move to the present. We must take lessons into our planning and internalize in our country. It took the US a shorter period, 70 years, Germany, France, Japan, 40 years, 30 years for South Korea and China. The period is becoming, and the knowledge is there about the drill that allows you to move that way. Why is it that it has been difficult for us to continue a path of rapid growth and industrialization and rapid change with high income for all our citizens when we have seen examples of this, including phases, as Professor Nyong'o said, in our own country before. We have taken lessons from these countries and from our own neighbors and from our own experience, Mr. President, in the preparation of this document, and we back the evidence from the facts that it is indeed possible to do that. The People's Republic of China is now down, it's gone down in history as the fastest growing country in the history of the world for its number of people. In the period of 82 to 83 to about 5 years ago, making that transition, bringing 700 million people out of poverty into prosperity, transforming its people from being predominantly rural to 60, now 65% urban, with decent livelihoods and homes and livelihoods and jobs to go, as well as health and education. just when we ourselves have been watching these developments take place. There are lessons and important lessons to learn from this country as well as industrialization. Mr. President, Professor Nyong'o has just mentioned again the importance of spatial planning. Our country, looking at projections of growth rates of population, will be 50% plus urban in 2050. Just 25 years from now, Kenyans are coming into urban areas whether we like it or not. And our constitution gives us the right to live wherever you wish in the republic. The young people want to come to urban areas, 4% annual growth rate of urban. By 2050, 45, 48%, 50% of our population will be urban. We must plan spatial place in urban areas in a way that will accommodate not just in housing, but also in source of livelihood. And that is something that we are taking into account. Mr. President, we looked, as I'm sharing, in the global framework under which this plan will be brought into fruition. And we look at global trading. Again, we must think of it outside the framework and outside the box that we have been brought into in the past. Mr. President, you were saying the other day to this group that we have access to the market of the People's Republic of China, 1.5 billion people, duty-free, quota-free. What is stopping us from exploiting it? Mr. President, we have already got a trade partnership agreement concluded with the European Union. Quota-free, duty-free, and with provisions for products which are familiar with us. Why should a country like Vietnam be getting a greater share of that market compared to us? These are the questions we asked, and they are questions that Kenyans need to ask, and Kenyans are very, very fast moving in taking opportunities. We believe that you are going to find a solution to this problem, Mr. President. Let me also say that the new trade partnership agreement with the United States also answers to these questions. We should move ahead with it. Whatever happens to AGOA or not, Kenya's access to these markets will be important. Mr. President, all these factors that we've brought into account that ought to be considered in the long-term plan are important because our country is predominantly young. We have young people who are very well educated and who are asking for quality jobs. A combination of investment, domestic investment, foreign investment that's happening in the region that Kenyans fail to notice. First of all is the bad news. Because we're quite comfortable here. Kenyans tend to be quite comfortable with their perch and forget that just right next door in Sudan is one of the largest humanitarian tragedies happening anywhere in the world right now. Yep. I see very few of my friends who are Kenyans. I can preach to students because they are captive to my audience, but I cannot reach a bigger population than that. That Khartoum was just a shell, a complete rubble after what happened in 2019, 2030, and it still is. And it's not very far from here, ladies and gentlemen. And you know, we don't know what will happen in the rest, the north, a little bit of the east. I don't want to mention too many countries because they are all here. They are parts of ours. We live in a part of the world which is very, very unstable. On the other hand, there's competition, which also we need to worry about. Because competition is good, it makes you think harder. We're talking about, Mr. President, when you're talking about tourism, Bishoftu, in the airport in Ethiopia. They are out, they are moving ahead, they are on the stock, the contractor is in place. For constructing Bishoftu International Airport, city, accommodation, global hub that will dominate the region for the future, if we're not careful. 15 million tourists per year, Taraput. Center of Boeing assembly as well as services. the kind of activities that normally would come to Nairobi. I'm happy, Mr. President, you are aware we are doing something about the airport here, but these are issues that we cannot look up to with equanimity. Bagamoyo, and Tanzania is not hiding this, $12 billion investment, now shopping for a taker between the Gulf, even Russia, China maybe, who knows what combination, that will bring Bagamoyo into one of the largest seaports doing business on the eastern seaboard of Africa. With the train electric connection that will go to the Tazara and link it to the corridor, Benguela corridor, right through to the Atlantic coast, which the Americans are part of, and the Europeans and so on. Ask ourselves where this leaves us as we look into the future. Mr. President, we looked at many instances like this in which competitiveness in the region could affect us adversely unless we act and act quickly. I just want to say, Mr. President, as I conclude here, and this is a global overview of the situation, that Kenyans are not quitters. We have been for a long time been seen as the lodestar of development in the region. We earned that reputation by hard work, by looking ahead, by determination, by grit, by doing the right thing at the right time. We can still do it. As Professor Nyong'o said, play your part, it can be done.